All right, here we are for the TCR Postgame, brought to you by AZ Sports Underground. I'm joined by some of my favorite people, some great writers for AZ Sports Underground, and talented content creators in their own right. I'm joined by Jackie. How are you doing today, Jackie?
I'm doing awesome. How are you guys?
Good. Evan, how are you doing, man?
Rocking and rolling over here, finally.
Finally, right? This is a much better kind of mood to be starting a stream on. It's not perfect, right? And we'll get into that, but it's a lot better to be talking about a win, right? And a win that isn't just on a last second overtime fumble recovery, I mean, at least a win where they were ahead in regulation. I'm not used to seeing that, right? So so we're going to get into it. Thanks to everyone who's jumping in here. Let me real quick say hi to some of the folks that are in the chat, and then we'll get into our conversation. We got GWY, who's was kind of in the chat early, watching and waiting, right? We got Oscar Cruz. Running two tight ends is a good idea. They did that a bit, right? We got Silver Wolf AZ. Baker going to have to move, helping the Cardinals break that streak, right? Yeah, for sure. We got Jose. Dennis Gardick, stand up. Gardick had a hell of a game. We'll talk about that. We got Ryan B. Tran. This defense is showing they have more heart than talent, and if they can stay healthy, maybe the latter will catch up. Okay, nice. Aaron Van Buren, we should not be happy these wins. I mean, I maybe, I don't know. We'll see, right? We got Tom Baum, first dub against Carolina online, right? So listen, that's nice to get that win, first one since 2013 was the last win, right? Correct. We've had against them. So like 9 years. Drew McWhorter, let's go. We got Tony Height in the house. Thanks for being here. We got Marcus Lingori. Kyler had to go big boy mode again. Still can't believe Cliff. We'll get into some of that. We got D-Lo, go Cards, baby. Hi, baby. Tim Cancilla, we needed that. Robert G. It was just the Panthers, scratched my head. Too Slim Shady, just unleashed Kyler in the first half. And we got Kiro. Let's start a Kyler Murray chant. Kyler. Jackie's saying, hey, who's that?
yeah, I don't know.
We got the Carolina Crown. Zach Allen had a better game. Man, Zach Allen, he's been good this year in general, but that game, we'll talk about him for sure. We got All Day K1, great game all over. We got Saltiest Gaming, what up? Thanks for being here. Lord Dane, a lot of folks jumping in here. Thanks for being here. Defense somehow allowed only 3 touchdowns in the first 10 quarters. Offense needs to step up. However, Zach Allen did great. We got Lagoon Road, nice win today. AJ Bazan, defense looked really good. We got David Pan. The Carolina curse has been broken, thank God. All right, so wanted to say hey to all the folks that are here. We got more folks that'll be piling in here. Let's get right into our studs and duds, and we'll just each take a turn going around. We'll let Jackie get a start. Give us one stud from this game.
I gotta say, we already mentioned him, but Zach Allen, man, what a game.
Yeah, I mean, he had Zach Allen had 3 batted passes, right? He had some nice tackles against the run, a sack right in the second quarter. We need to pay that man, right? I mean, we need to extend
Absolutely.
that. Yeah, for sure. Evan, who's your first stud in this game?
I was gonna say Zach Allen too. So I had like a complimentary fourth one that I wanted to add in there, so I still got one in the tank. So Zach Allen first, and then Zach Ertz number 2 for me, man. Zach Ertz is just so sure-handed, and you can just trust what he does. And that touchdown was nice, and then he got the onside kick as well too. Just no trouble at all. Just knew it was there, got it, ran out of bounds. Zach Ertz is my number 2 for right now. I just had to give a shout out to both the Zachs.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I'm gonna go with someone else on the defensive side, Dennis Gardick. He had that interception that was set up by JJ Watt, batted pass, but he also had a sack through a holding call. Like he was being held and still got the sack, right? Gardick's been playing he's been playing well all season, and it's nice to see him get that sack. Nice with that interception. man. So like on the defensive side, we got 3 guys, right, that were just making some plays, right? Do y'all have any other studs you want to add? I got a list of them, but anyone else either you want to add as well?
Eno had a really good game.
Thank
He's starting to
you.
solidify himself as that number 2 tandem with Connor. It's beautiful. He had a few great runs. He had some really good blocks too. I was really impressed with I don't know if you caught the press conference last week with Cliff Kingsbury where someone's like, "You've got these 5'4" wide receivers trying to block." Well,
Oh yeah.
they did a pretty effective job blocking today.
Yeah, and listen, Eno kicked off and made the tackle. Did you see that too?
Absolutely.
I noticed he kicked off. I didn't see him make the tackle.
He also made the tackle on the kickoff that he kicked. So, you had that, right? So, yeah, it was nice. Some tough running with him, right? For sure. Evan, do you have anyone else you want to add to the studs list?
Absolutely. 6 receptions, 88 yards, 1 touchdown. Marquise Hollywood Brown. He came into the Cardinals and everyone said that's not going to work out because he drops a lot of passes. I don't know about you guys. He must have been doing some DeAndre Hopkins workouts because he looks strong when he gets the ball right here. His hands are looking strong, not seeing a lot of drops. That dude is a legit number 2. I mean, we're about to have Hopkins and Marquise Brown in a few weeks. We could start talking about top 3 best tandem wide receivers that we've ever had on this team. And those dudes are up there after Fitz and Bolden. And then we can have the Rob Moore and Frank Sanders conversation as well, too, because we love those guys. But this is going to be a scary offense when they come back because Marquise Brown has looked amazing from route running to catching to speed plays. We haven't seen the 70-yard shot yet, but that's coming, baby. That's coming.
Yeah. Just a matter of time. Yeah, there was a cup that touchdown, right, through contact. Nice job holding onto the ball, getting his feet in bounds. There was a nice play on the sidelines to convert a third down, conversion there. So yeah, really nice to see that. Anyone else you want to add to that list of studs, Jackie, for this game?
Let's see. JJ Watt showed up, there towards the end. He had a couple batted balls. He's looking pretty stout for having AFib this, during the week.
Yeah, I'm sure you all saw that tweet that they had to kind of do a kind of a shock to get his heart back, and that's scary stuff. So, yeah, but he had a heck of a game. One of those batted passes set up that Gardeck interception, right? The whole defense, right? The defense gave up 3 points right in the first half, and they gave up that late touchdown. But the 7 of those points were on that pick 6 by Kyler Murray. This defense just played exceptionally well. I mean, again, Carolina's offense has been struggling, so that is worth noting. But kudos to them. I mean, I advanced Joseph on my suds for having game plan, the defense for executing, right? Mm-hmm. So I'm going to add one more, and then we'll get to the duds. Second half, Kyler Murray. Second half, Kyler Murray was pretty damn good, right?
Running Kyler Murray.
Running. It was nice to see him running sometimes and throwing for a touchdown and running for a touchdown. But I'm going to use that as a segue to the duds, and I will lead off the duds. My first dud is first half Kyler Murray because he couldn't get the ball going, the pick 6, right? So that wasn't good. So Jackie, who's your first dud for this game?
Rodney Hudson. He snapped the ball high into the air over Kyler's head. And then he had a holding call that kind of screwed up the drive. Yeah. Not his best game for sure.
Yeah, that was rough. That high snap. Yeah, for sure. Evan, who do you have?
Following up on that, I'm just going to go the whole interior offensive line. I mean, bring in the Will Hernandez penalty when he lightly skimmed the shoulder of the referee and then set us back on that drive. The whole interior offensive line was just a show.
It wasn't great. Yeah, there were some issues there, and that penalty and I know you tweeted about this. It's like, Frankie Louvu had the unnecessary roughness, tossing James Conner, and you would expect on that play that the Cardinals would end up ahead, but instead, you had the flag on Will Hernandez. He gets ejected, and then it's like 1st and goal at the 18. right? They end up negative on it. Not
You
good.
know, as we've seen in a lot of sports franchises, it's never the first guy that does something wrong. It's always the next guy that comes in and tries to help out, right? At what point is that going to change? I think we're all taught as people, human beings, when something is going wrong, or if anybody sees somebody getting attacked maliciously on the street, we need to be good people and go and intervene and protect others. When
Yeah.
things like that happen and they rush in and bump the side of him, why are we getting the brunt of it? That was a weak call by that referee. And somebody from AZ Cardinals, or I don't know who it was, mentioned that 4 different players touched the referee on that one. 4. Nothing was malicious. I mean, this kind of goes back to Boris Diaw and Amari Stoudemire walking off the bench when something malicious clearly happened by Robert Horry, and they didn't even get in to scrum or anything like that. You know what I mean? Stuff like that needs to change in sports because it's making the game about the refs, and that's not the intention of the rule. You can't be taking players out and letting that affect the outcome of the game. So I just wanted to get that out there. That was awful.
That was yeah. I mean, that fortunately it didn't end up costing the Cardinals a game, but I mean, what way I would look at it is like something about it feels like it's against the spirit of the rule. You know, I mean,
Yes.
technically he bumped him, right? And technically, sure. But like the spirit of the situation is, the Carolina Panthers player was the aggressor, got things heated, things got chippy, and in the end, it was the guy who bumped the ref who wasn't trying to be aggressive towards him, but it was not a smart move by Hernandez, but nonetheless, right? So but yeah, I don't know, that's tough, right? Real quick, I want to say thanks to GWOW for the super chat or super sticker, and he had a comment, so I'll get his comment right after I do the. Thank you for the super chat, GWL. So his next comment was the time management and using up, what was it, 3 or 4 timeouts used on sending in plays by smoke signals on the Jumbotron screen. So yeah, and that kind of leads to what was kind of one of my duds in this, which was Cliff Kingsbury. Listen, there were some nice plays. The touchdown to Zach Ertz was really nicely designed and executed and called. Zach Ertz was wide open, so I'll give him credit on that. But the sweep play to Rondale Moore on 4th down, right, that was blown up for a loss, getting too cute, right? And I know you tweeted out about that, cute college coach Cliff Kingsbury. But it was also too many plays that went down to the last second on the play clock and then felt rushed and looked sloppy and looked like it wasn't executed well. It just felt really out of sync. And then all those timeouts and a couple other plays play calls that just seemed questionable. I was more critical of Cliff last week than I probably ever have been in terms of his play calling. In fact, I wrote an article on azsportsunderground.com talking about his play calling, very critical of it. And I saw some of that again today. It's coming out of a win, right? But yeah, so for me, and then people are, the bait and switch with Dortch and Moore, right? That and Dortch and Moore need to be used more and better, right? And we didn't see Dortch out there much, and he's been so effective. They need to use him more, right? Any other duds that either of you want to add to the list before we get into our general observations?
Maybe it's not on him. Maybe it's just the way he was used in this game. But I thought Rondale Moore was kind of a dud. I don't like those behind the line of scrimmage throws to him.
Mm-hmm.
Make him run a route. Do something creative because it's predictable and it needs to stop.
Yeah. No, and that's more on Cliff, but yeah, I mean, yes, listen, he is so elusive. And if you're going to do plays behind the line of scrimmage to receivers, he's the guy you want to get it to, but they weren't effective plays they were calling. And get him down the field some more because he can do that too.
Yeah.
So for sure. Well, why don't we kind of segue to our general observations from the game? This could be good, bad, or otherwise, just things that stood out, things that we saw in this game. Evan, why don't we let you get this started? What's your first observation from the game?
Well, you guys touched on the duds. My next 2 duds were going to be Cliff and Rondale Moore.
Okay.
And so the observations with that is exactly what Jackie just said. His route tree, I've never seen so many yards behind the line of scrimmage from somebody, from going east and west. And then that 4th and 1 on, I think it was the first or second possession of the game, 4th and 1 down there. And James Conner's back there. You're like, all right, they're just going to hand it to James, right? Oh, no. Here comes Rondale Moore, some sort of handoff, wide receiver handoff to him, going side by side and just blown up right away. I truly think Rondale Moore is almost a detriment to this team because of the way Cliff uses him. We didn't see Dortch this week, man. Dortch had one really good catch. I think it was a third down catch too on that last possession where we got a touchdown. No, on the weird possession where we went down to the red zone and it was 3rd and 27 or whatever. But he had one catch there that I remember. Didn't see him too much else. I like what he does on punt returns, though. You see Rondale Moore going side by side, and Dortch does. But when he sees it breaks down, he at least dives forward to get that 3, 4, 5 extra yards, whatever it may be. I hate how they use Rondale Moore. I think it actually is a detriment to this team. I would like to not see him anymore. On the flip side of that, it also didn't seem like we missed AJ Green at all.
Mm-hmm. I mean, the offense put up more points without him. We didn't have him dropping those balls. I'm still a believer in Rondale Moore's talent, but I absolutely agree they're not using him well. They're not using him, effectively, and the way they're using him, the plays they're calling with him are hurting the offense, and it's more about the plays called than about him.
Yeah.
Because we've seen him make some nice plays down the field last year. He can do it. He did it in college. They're just not, going into the season, Cliff kept saying, well, he's going to get the Christian Kirk plays. Okay. Let's see it. Right.
Didn't see it today, did we?
I'll give them, I will be a little bit patient with that because it's his first game back after being injured. But if this is what we see for the rest of the season, or even next couple of games, I'm going to be exceedingly frustrated about that. Right. Jackie, what's your first observation?
We use a lot of timeouts when the play clock is winding down, and we need to figure out how to get these plays off because we're wasting timeouts.
He's on fire.
Yeah, right. I mean, this is supposed to be an up-tempo offense, right?
Right.
This is the whole deal. Everyone talks about why they don't move the receivers around. The explanation, excuse, whatever you want to call it, has always been Cliff likes to keep his receivers in the same spot so that they can go up tempo, not have to move around a lot. Okay, well then do it, right? Stop letting the clock go down to 0, right? Let's see this up tempo offense because I do think you have the players that can, take advantage of that kind of offense. You have the fast guys, you have the quarterback. If you can get the defense on its heels with that up tempo, I think that could go well, but they're not doing it, right? For sure. No, that makes a lot of sense. So for me, I'm gonna just go with something simple. The Cardinals offense continues to look sluggish out the gate. They continue to play well in the second half, better in the second half, but the first half's struggles are still there, right? They didn't put up any points in the first half.
Nope.
I think did they get a field goal? They had a field goal. Yeah. So something about that. That's got to change.
6, by the way.
I'm sorry.
Should have had 6, by the way, except for they went on that 4th and 1. Should have been 10-6, but tomato, I guess.
Right. So real quick, let me just say hey to a few folks, then we'll get to Jackie's next comment. We got a couple of folks who've jumped in here. Robert Moore, another writer for azsportsunderground.com. Thanks for being here. They are utilizing Moore wrong. His speed is his strength. If Kyler's throw was inbounds, that pass would have been good. Yeah, that one down the sidelines, then he caught it, but it was out of bounds, right? Tony, thanks for being here. That's an excellent point on Moore. We got Base Strangler. Thanks for being here. My Cardinals got me hot and Pollard. Woohoo! Yeah, it's nice to have a win. We got the Cattle Dog. Cliff Kingsbury. Route trees suck. Plain simple.
Yep.
Let's see. We got who else has jumped in here? We got Wolf Langus. So many reasons Cliff is bad coach. My comment would be too long. I feel that. All right, Jackie, what's your next observation from this game?
Defense was pretty solid against the run. Christian McCaffrey we were kind of iffy if he was going to play. He did end up playing only 27 yards for 8 carries. He only really got effective when they were starting to pass to him.
Yeah, I mean that touchdown was really late in the game, right? And
garbage time, essentially.
Yeah,
yes.
garbage time. But they did a good job containing him, right? Well, yeah. I mean that was kind of going to be the biggest concern, right? He was the guy who had the best chance to take advantage of the Cardinals defense, right? In terms of our linebackers who struggled against linebackers usually the guys that are going to be covering a guy like him on passing routes, right? And they've struggled in that role. Our run defense hasn't been great, but today they did. Now he's banged up, so maybe that's part of it. But yeah, that run defense did a good job, really kind of containing him. Evan, what's another observation you had from the game?
It was almost exactly what Jackie was, except worded differently. And it was, I thought the defense won the game for us. I thought regardless of what the offense was going to do or not do, I think they won the game for us. I was really impressed with what Zaven Collins did. You saw Victor Dimukeje get up in there. Now you have Dennis Gardeck getting a sack and an interception, which is more than Chandler Jones did for the Raiders this year so far. One thing I do want to bring up, if anybody on Twitter knows, I'm trying to look for it. Maybe Joe, you have it. I wonder what the snap count was for Zaven and for Isaiah Collins. Zaven or Isaiah Simmons. Isaiah Simmons had 3 tackles as well too, so he was in the game a little bit more. And then in the post game, if anybody's kind of scrolling on Twitter right now, apparently JJ Watt is getting really emotional at his press conference, talking about what he went through with his heart stuff, given that his son is going to be born in like a few weeks here. So a couple interesting tidbits there. But if anybody has that snap count with Isaiah Simmons and Zaven Collins, that'd be great to have.
Yeah, I don't have that. I usually get that the next day when PFF does their grades. I noticed Simmons was Simmons was in on the first play of the game, first defensive play. But I didn't see him out there all the time. So yeah, I'm not sure. I'll be interested to look at that for sure. Real quick, Nutsack saying hello to Trey McBride. Trey McBride, first NFL catches.
Yeah.
Right? So McBride needs to speed up his learning curve. He's still not all there, but shows potential. Yeah, I know people have been very frustrated about not seeing more of Trey McBride. I'm not overly concerned about that because tight ends just are slow to be ready to go in the NFL. That's like historically they don't come out the gate, right away. And when you have a guy like Ertz on your team, but it was nice to see him get those receptions and get some targets, be part of the game plan, right? One of my observations I'm gonna give here is, for all the things we can say about Coach Cliff Kingsbury and the coaching staff and the struggles, they do seem to make good adjustments at the half, even this year with their struggles, right? And this goes back to last season. They came out after halftime playing pretty well in a number of games, right? And they've done that again this year, so listen, there's a lot to be critical of about what's going on with the play calling. But on both sides of the ball, they have done a really good job with those second half adjustments, on defense and on offense. So it was nice to see that, to kind of to take the lead and to hold on to the win in the second half. Jackie, do you have another observation from the game?
I noticed that and maybe it's just because it's Baker, but none of our corners are really tested this game. It was kind of a rather quiet game for them.
Well, when we had 5 passes broken up at the line of scrimmage by JJ Watt and Zach Allen, I definitely think that helps. Also, there was a lot of times in 3rd and long, and I think even a fourth and 6 play or something like that, where guys were wide open and Baker just plain old missed them on 3 or 4 occasions. So I'm not wanting to hype up the defense too much on the passing game, just because I saw a lot of that. And if this wasn't Baker, this could have been a very different outcome. Unfortunately, it was Baker. Fortunately, we planned to play against Baker, and maybe some of this was designed because that's not what he's good with. You know what I mean? We had no issue with him last year in Cleveland. You know what I mean? He was awful in Cleveland. In fact, that game broke up the Browns' love affair. Remember, they were 3-0 to start the year, and then they started trailing just a little bit and whatnot. But I'm not wanting to give the defense too much credit. The defensive line, yes. The secondary, yikes.
Mm-hmm. You know, yeah, there were some plays that weren't great in the secondary, but overall, I mean, I still am going to give the defense a lot of credit for how well they played, but we have to know Baker Mayfield coming in this game was 32nd in ESPN's total QBR, their kind of proprietary QBR stat there. He has not played well, right? His PFF grades were in the 50s. Mayfield has struggled this year. He only had 1 interception to 3 touchdowns. So the fact they didn't have a ton of turnovers kind of disguised or kind of downplayed how bad he's been playing, or kind of made it not look as bad as it has been. But they weren't. This was not Patrick Mahomes. They were stopping on defense, right? So that's definitely a good point there. Let's see. Is it your turn were you responding to Jackie's? I'm losing track.
I was just responding to Jackie.
So why don't you give us an observation, Evan?
One thing I'm just worried about now is Prater. How's Prater going to be? I don't know if that's really an observation per se, but that's what's on my mind now.
Yeah, and we had some folks in the chat asking about what's up with Prater. He was on the injury report this week with a hip injury. He played, but then they had Eno Benjamin do the kickoff late in the game, and then they went for 2 at the end. So, you wonder, did he aggravate the injury worse, or were they just, okay, we're ahead now, so let's kind of, put him on ice for the rest of the game? I don't know. That's certainly something to watch, right? Real quick, let me give a shout out. Thank you, Marcos, for the super chat. I'm really excited about digging into the film on this game. The players showed up today. This win is for them. And, Marcos Labrada is also writer for AZ Sports Underground. Check out his stuff. He does a lot of cool stuff with the film study. He gets in, shows film clips. His articles are definitely worth checking out. He does some stuff previewing the games and afterwards. If you like to see some film study stuff, definitely check out what he's doing. But thank you for the super chat, Marcos, and for everything you do to write for AZ Sports Underground. And, of course, but yeah, so Prater, hopefully he's okay, right? That's a little bit of a concern moving forward. So my next observation is that this game was an improvement, but Cliff is not off the hook, right?
Not by a long shot.
It was nice to get the win. It's nice to be 2-2, and I think if you told us this team would be 2-2 coming out of the first 4 games, we all would have signed up for that. But the way it's happened, we talked about this before, the way it's happened is concerning. So, they put up more points. They came out slow though, and there were still some questions. So, I'm always kind of a preach patience kind of a person, and I'm not in the camp that says fire Cliff right now, mid-season. I want to let the season play out. But if this team doesn't start, showing a lot more, and if they don't finish the season well, I'm going to be much more open to the moving on from Cliff than I've ever been. And that's a weird thing to say after a win, but there were still some of those concerns were still there. Again, it was nice to see them get it together in the second half, but as we talked about, Carolina is a team that's struggling, so we don't want to overreact to this game.
How about the fact that when we had to take a timeout, Kyler came over to Cliff, and we saw it after the commercial break. He's yelling at Cliff full on, like, get me the play. Like, come on, like, we need to run the play. And
I like that.
I love that. But I think, is that the most animated we've seen K1 towards Cliff in a season, like in a game?
Yes.
Maybe.
I've never seen that kind of interaction with them. And I like it. It shows leadership.
Yeah. Hell yeah, it does. And it kind of shows Kyler is on a different level too. It's like, no, you need to get this in. I'm moving at 100,000 miles per hour. And that's what he said last week in regards to Andy Isabella, right?
Yeah.
So I like it. I want more of it. I just don't want it to be not a distraction, because it is a distraction. I don't want it to be like the overwhelming thing that people start thinking about now, though.
Or a negative.
Exactly.
But I've always wondered if we were to ever move on from Cliff Kingsbury, if Kyler can survive without him. And I think Kyler will be okay. I think Kyler can learn to live without Cliff.
Yeah, Lance is a believer in Cliff, and he says Kyler needs to grow up. And listen, we all have our opinions. I'm kind of on the other side. I'm a much more a Kyler believer than I'm a Cliff. But I'm also preaching patience. Tony's though with Jackie, a great football mind, asked me today, man, can you imagine how good Kyler is going to be when Cliff's gone? Right?
What? As long as Kyler has one voice in his head about what to do with the football, and that person is Cliff Kingsbury, I don't even want to hold Kyler Murray accountable anymore with anything until we get. What if he had a quarterbacks coach and an offensive coordinator, and then you had the head coach? Like, what would that look like? I hate that he has one voice in his head the whole time, as opposed to being able to get a little bit over here, a little bit over here, a little bit of knowledge here, and wrapping it all up. You know what I mean? It's a detriment to K1 to not have other people coaching him. When is he going to get an actual offensive-minded assistant on his staff? I think that's something that needs to be looked at as well, too, that nobody's talking about.
Yeah. And Lance saying, you guys must have forgotten Cliff was drafted by Bill. Wonderlic test scores off the charts. So, some of the best of all time, was taught all the way of great coaches. Once it clicks for Kyler, we go. And listen, I think there's nuance here. Like, I'm not one of these people who say Cliff sucks. Like Cliff, my take on Cliff is he's smart. He works hard. He's good at designing plays. My concern is when it comes to calling the plays. He's not getting them in quickly enough. I think he's trying to be too cute sometimes. I think so. To me, I think, he can get better at that, but he needs to do that. And we need to see it this season, so
he can absolutely get better, but we don't have time to wait for that. His ceiling can be sky high, but we can't wait.
So it's tough, but it's bad we're talking about this after a win, right? But that's how the games have gone. Yeah.
Cliff does things that we wouldn't do in Madden games. I don't know how many times we've got to say that. I mean, throwing 3rd and 1 fade routes to Rondale Moore today, and then AJ Green when you have the best cornerback on him, and then you're doing these weird plays on 4th and 1 when everybody knows just go and get the points right now. He does weird things that are not NFL head coach material. And I still question if he is an actual leader of men. I think that can absolutely be questioned.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, I guess give him a little more credit on that side. For me, I think one of the things, I think there's a couple things. One, I think his play design is really good, but it is complex. Some of the blocking assignments are tricky. And if you got new guys in the system, it might take a little time to get up to speed. And sometimes it's one of those things where when it works, it's amazing, but there's maybe a high degree of difficulty, and that might be part of the reason it's stalling out early. And I think it's the choice of plays, but the rest of the stuff, like I don't. And again, we don't know. We're outside the building. I don't know that I'm right on this, but I'm not as worried about his leadership as I am the play calling. But listen, it's a results-based business, right? So we got to see the results at the end of the season. And, this is a step forward, but it's coming from quite a place of deficit, right? It's not. So, yeah. Are we at Jackie? Whose observation are we? I'm losing track, but this is a good conversation.
I think it's my turn. And then I guess to kind of piggyback on all of this, last game we saw a lot of blunders with we were calling out play calling, but I was going back and watching the game, and there was a lot of personnel issues with execution. I didn't see a whole lot of missed execution by players. It was more like the little blunders that we had were play calls.
Yeah, there were some penalties and some things that kind of set us back, right? Yeah. But not a lot of bonehead plays.
Right. It wasn't like last game. So I can see there's improvement and there's hope for this offense.
Right. Yeah, the execution, I think I agree, that definitely looked better. Evan, what else you got?
I feel like I've kind of gone through everything that's in my head about what we're seeing, and we can only judge this game for what it's worth. but with a grain of salt. You know what I mean?
Right.
And we could have the argument that we shouldn't have even won the Raiders game. It was tough winning this game. And so you could have the argument that this is the most fraudulent 2-2 team right now. You could also go on the other, you can go on the other end and say, we're just starting to scratch the surface. And now I'm kind of over this win. We did what we were supposed to do, in my opinion. This was a get it right game, get out healthy, and do all that. We have a date with the 4-0 Eagles coming up next. Now, and I don't want to get too ahead there. I'm not ready to crown the Eagles either after beating the Lions, the Vikings, the Commanders, and the Jaguars. None of those teams are really going to break the bank when it comes to going far into the playoffs. And so this is going to be, I think, the first legitimate test for the Cardinals, just because everything that could go wrong last week did go wrong. And now you're starting to see some of the plays coming out of the playbook, and things are looking just a little bit more crisp every week. And a lot of people say, NFL really doesn't even start until week 4. So here we are going in the next week. This isn't a must win, in my opinion. I think the Seahawks game will be a must win because the key for me is still being 3-3 by the time D-Hop comes back for that beautiful Thursday night football game against the New Orleans Saints. I'm really looking forward to that game a few weeks down the road. But let's see what this defense can do against one of the top 3 offense right now, probably statistically, top 5 at least. Jalen Hurts, a top quarterback MVP running. Miles Sanders had a big game. Let's see what this team can do against that and that defense at home. Will we win at home? Shit, let's just talk about that. Will we win at home?
Yeah, right. Jackie, what are your thoughts about that Eagles game coming up?
I'm always going to be a homer, be optimistic. This is, I don't feel very good about that game.
Yeah. I think you're right. And I think Evan's right when he says, this isn't a must win for me. This is a must look competent, right?
Ooh, good
don't look silly.
Right. Yeah. I mean, honestly, I think the Eagles, and we talked about this before the season. I think they have one of the best rosters in the NFL. The only question for me coming in the season was the quarterback. Their quarterback has played well. Evan makes a good point. They haven't played, elite teams. I think the Jaguars are better than people think or realize, but they haven't been tested by a top team yet. But I probably think the Eagles are going to get this win against the Cardinals, as much as I love to see the Cardinals come out and get the W. But if the Cardinals can look competent and then go into what's going to be a much easier stretch of games, coming out, 2-3, going against, then you've got teams like Seattle and, New Orleans. As long as they look competent, I'm not going to feel too bad about that.
The early line is Eagles -6 on DraftKings.
All right. So yeah, that's that, and that sounds about right. So yeah, real quick, Soul Pancake, Marcos, we beat the Carolina Kitty Cats finally. Listen, there's something to be said about having that streak ended, having that kind of having that off our back. So that's a nice feeling, having a win, being 2-2, having an offense that actually at least put up points, even if it was mostly a Mitchell in the second half. But yeah, absolutely. And of course, thank you as always, Mark. Well, why don't we get a few comments in the chat and just kind of respond to some of those for a little bit, see what some of you that are hanging out with us think of the game. We got Jason. Thanks for being here. Hey, Joe, didn't notice if you saw me here. What's up, bud? Thanks for being here. Appreciate that. Let's see. So you can't disregard the Lions as one of the Eagles' opponents, considering how their offense is doing. I mean, Goff is like a top 5 in passing touchdowns thus far. I mean, the Lions' offense has been doing a good job. It's the defense, right? Panthers have top 5 D. If y'all have questions too, please get those in the chat. I'm trying to see if there's any.
Kingsbury's at the podium right now. This should be fun.
Oh, okay. Got to give him credit, right? Will's saying coaching staff needs to go. Well, maybe we'll see at the end of the season, right? Let's see. Even if the Cardinals win, y'all still going to find a way to discredit everyone for the win? No, we're not discrediting everyone. We're just
pointing it out. We're just pointing it out.
Listen, I'm excited about
calling it how we see it.
Yeah, I mean, kudos to the defense. they did enough on offense. There were some nice things, but we're going to be critical of things that are there. But worst
We
panel
have to
ever.
be. We
What?
have to
What?
be.
Jose, worst panel ever. Whatever, dude. Whatever. We're the best panel ever. You're just jelly. All right. Anyway, listen, we're excited about the win. There's some really nice things that they did. The defense looked really good. There's some nice players on offense, but there's some things that need to be worked on, right? They came out slow again. Carolina is not a great offense. Their defense is pretty good. So yeah, for sure.
Anybody notice Trayvon Mullen a little bit more? I totally forgot that he was in and he was going to play today. I saw him a few times on the field. Didn't really notice too much effectiveness, but I could be wrong because I'm focusing on line of scrimmage more than DB play, and that obviously gets cut off on the TV. Did you guys notice anything from Trayvon?
No, didn't.
No, but corners weren't really tested this game.
Right.
Yeah, I didn't really notice anything looking at he had two tackles. So there's that. I'll be interested to see what we see in his player grades and stuff tomorrow when those come out. So they're working him in. I'm hoping to see more from him, but yeah, we haven't seen much. He's kind of, I think we saw Christian Matthew on the field. So, he's, listen, at least it means Jace Whitaker isn't out there, so it could be worse, right?
Right.
So let's see.
Got a few quotes from Cliff if you guys want to hear him.
Okay.
Cliff said, there was not a ton of design runs for Kyler Murray, but he's a good weapon to have. Yet he had 12 rushing attempts, so I think most of those should have been, off after the play breaks down. Also, hopefully he said hopefully we can get it rolling, and if we rush the ball like that, we're going to be a much better football team. Called JJ Watt inspirational and called Dennis Gardeck Weapon X. I kind of like that, Weapon X for Dennis Gardeck. So we need to start getting on that train.
Nice. Yeah.
Weapon X. Okay.
Now, one of the things I kind of noted is it was nice to see Kyler running the ball a little bit more. I think I talked about this before. In his first couple of years in the league, when he was still kind of learning the NFL game, and when things were struggling, you would see him run the ball. And things have been struggling this season. We didn't see him running the ball enough to my liking. I would have liked to have seen him doing that more, kind of converting some of those third downs when things break down, and it was nice to see him running. Some of them were designed, some of them were not. But it was nice to see that a little bit more this game, right?
Yeah,
for sure. Anything else noteworthy from Cliff?
He said it's going to be a better Monday for him when going on Doug and Wolf and won't get yelled at by Wolf anymore. That's about it right now. So
okay, yeah. So listen, this is a win. I know. It's been a tough season so far. It's nice to get a win. It's nice to beat the Carolina Panthers for the first time since 2013. It's nice to see the defense play well pretty much the whole game. It's nice to see the defensive line get some pressure. It's nice to see a sack from an outside linebacker.
Right? Batted balls.
Yeah.
Baker,
in fact, like one of my notes is, what is this? The DC universe? All these Batmen on the field, like wah wah, right? Like they just kept batting the ball, right? Like crazy. And Zach Allen, Zach Attack, right? I mean, he's looking good. I tweeted out a couple weeks ago, like, hey, I think it's time we start talking about extending Zach Allen. And man, he's looked good all season. He looked great today. JJ Watt played well. It is interesting because coming into the game, one of the biggest concerns was for me for sure was interior defensive line, and they've played really well right now. Rashard Lawrence is banged up, and that's not great, but man, it's nice to see that defensive line playing really well.
No signs at all of Lecky Fotu. Was he out? Did I miss that? He's not on the stats. He's nowhere to be found.
That's interesting.
I feel like I saw him out there.
I thought I saw him too, but yeah, not seeing much. I don't see anything stats wise. So if that's the case, man, they really played. Michael Dogby played a little bit. So
McKagie played.
Cameron Thomas. So that's interesting. I will be interested to look at the snap counts right when they come out tomorrow, right? For sure.
And not a lot of Ben Neiman or Nick Vigil. We saw a lot of Zaven Collins there. That was good to see. It was great that he stood out there. I think Saltiest Gaming said it earlier in the pod. I mean, he's the one that has the green dot on the back of his helmet, and it seems like he's starting to thrive a little. Is that dare to say?
Maybe. Yeah. I don't know. Real quick, Vigil got injured, so he was out. He was out with an injury. Lance pointing out that Lecky tackled the wide receiver that fumbled the double reverse. Okay, so he was in there. He just made. I guess we didn't.
Did he
see
get
him
the forced fumble?
I think. Yeah, I don't know that was a forced fumble because if it's what I'm thinking about, because it was kind of a botched handoff, and then Neiman jumped on the ball. So, but I do think I remember seeing him in there. Real quick, I want to thank Back to Constitution for the super sticker. Thank you so much. Appreciate you being here, and thank you for the support. And then he's got a comment. That was great. Marco still struggling, not good. Marco had a few rough plays early in the game for sure. But of course, thank you for Marco Wilson struggled early with a couple bad tackles and such, but again, the team overall, the defense was definitely the strong point of this game. So yeah. Let's see. I'm trying to see if there's other comments here on this. Thanks, Tanner. Thanks for being here. I want to say hey to some of the other folks that jumped in here. Deontay Singleton. He was in for some snaps. We got Arjun. Allen's been balling all season, not just this game. Yep. No, he's graded real well all season for sure. So yeah, it's encouraging to see that. All right. So we've got some reason for optimism. The team won. Obviously, they beat Carolina. The offense put up some points, got the ball moving in the second half. We need to see them doing that in the first half. There's still some things to clean up with the play calling and the clock management. But, man, if that defense can keep playing like that, again, it's not against a great offense. We know that. But if that defense can keep us in games, right, and
yes.
we did some last year too, right? So that's, and we're going to be getting Antonio Hamilton back sometime soon. So the cornerback room, yeah, right, is getting a little healthier, hopefully.
And then add Rashard Lawrence to that D line too. I mean, he was our best interior lineman for the first 3 weeks, and then all of a sudden JJ Watt and Zach Allen come out. And I remember going on the very first pod with you, Joe, and I said the thing that needs to happen this year with that D line is like 2 of these 3 guys need to hit between Lecky, Allen, and Rashard Lawrence. And sure enough, 2 of those guys are really starting to hit. So when we can get healthy up there, if we do, that's going to be tremendous for us. I'm looking forward to that now.
Yeah, with Lawrence, we're not sure how long he's going to be out with that hand injury, but hopefully he'll be back sooner than later. I'm sorry, Jackie, go ahead.
No, just kind of what Evan was saying. Like once we get a healthier D line, I think we'll be in a lot better shape. And this was probably the first game that I've watched this season where I felt like, man, if we just need to pick up this in free agency, or we need this piece, then we'd be a more complete team. I didn't feel that way in this game. So I think as long as defense puts in max effort, we'll be all right.
Yeah, every other game we felt like we were in the mud, right? And even like the Raiders game, it took an improbable series of plays to get an amazing overtime win. This was the first game where it felt like the team, for all their struggles, came out and really won the game, right? They were struggling in the first half like we talked about, but in the second half, they got the ball moving. They sustained drives. They put up points. They scored touchdowns on offense. Their defense continued to hold firm, and they took a lead in regulation and held the lead, right, and made plays and forced turnovers, right? This was, for all the things we're being critical, and I know some folks in the chat don't like that, but listen, we're going to be, we're going to tell you the good with the bad. And if you've been following my channel a long time, I'm probably one of the more optimistic people. So I hope, you understand that I take a balanced approach. And when I'm critical, it's not because I'm a hater. I'm one of the least haters out there, but there's some good to build on here. It was a game where they legitimately won it, but they're going to have to do better on offense to beat teams like the Eagles and the Rams when we play them again, and some of the other teams, right? So some nice things to see though, for sure. Any other thoughts y'all want to share before we kind of wrap up here? Jackie, Evan, Jackie, why don't you first?
I mean, a lot of blunders happen on offense. K1 threw a pick six, that high snap, those 4 downs that we didn't convert, not taking the points. Those are a lot of morale killers that can, really kill the momentum in a game. And the fact that we still came out in the second half swinging, and took a very commanding, second half lead. It really shows that we're building at this point.
Yeah, for sure. Evan,
I would agree. It's a lot easier to build moving forward coming off of a win than a loss, and sometimes a win like this can just all of a sudden help get things rolling. I mean, DJ Humphries after the game said that the offense was rolling in the second half and it was beautiful to see. That's a quote we haven't heard. Just hearing that from an offensive line is great, considering our interior is just has a lot to be desired for. Let's put it like that right now. So the thing that I'm looking forward to now is seeing next Friday what our injury report's going to be. That's kind of where I'm at, unfortunately. Matt Prater, Justin Pugh, all those things. So we'll see.
Yeah, for sure. Want to thank my friend Kevin here, Man Around Town. Congrats, Cards fans, and remember to smash that like. Thank you for that. David says, we're not haters, just critical thinkers. Thank you. Appreciate that. Right. So listen, there's something to build on here. It's not just simply that it's a win, but it's a win where there's a couple things that are encouraging. The defense played a solid game all the way through, right? And the offense the offense was a little more uneven, but they put up points and they sustained drives. And, it wasn't just a bunch of field goals. They scored some touchdowns, made some plays, obviously in the second half primarily. So there are absolutely things to build on here, right? But as always, they have to do the work and they have to move forward. We've got a tough matchup against the Eagles. Got to see what they do there. They've got to look competent, and then they've got to win. They've got to win those games against Seattle and New Orleans if they want to, have to be a team that has a chance for the playoffs, right? And that's absolutely still something that can happen. So let's tell everyone where to find your work and what they can expect from your work. Jackie, tell everyone where they can find you and what they can expect when they follow you and your content.
Well, you can find me on Twitter at jsandiego. Twitter is mostly for me, just I'm funny and I just like to joke around. Every now and then you'll get a sports take, Suns, Cards. You can find me as a writer on AZ Sports Underground. I've got some articles coming out, one about Suns. You can find my podcast, Redbird Red Zone. That's a rated R, Pat McAfee style, just hanging with the boys, recapping the games, looking forward to the next games. And then every Friday, I on live with Let's Talk Sports at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So I'm pretty busy. You can find me everywhere.
Nice. Evan, where can folks find you and what can they expect from you?
At azsportsunderground.com. Obviously, everything's been very hectic in my life recently, but we're starting to slow down here. There's light at the end of the tunnel, so hopefully I can be more active there. Obviously, He's on Fire podcast. He's on Fire pod on Twitter and on the YouTube channel. Link is in the bio. We're a fun, loving podcast that likes to go out and just call it how we see it, more barbershop style, if you will. I'm like, no, we're not going to do this. Like, I don't like what Cliff Kingsbury is doing, or Monty Williams did whatever, we're going to roll with the hot takes and go with it. You don't like negativity. My podcast is probably not for you because we call it exactly how we see it. And we don't try to fluff anything up because the Cardinals, fact remains, we've only beaten the Panthers and we've only beaten the Raiders. And come to check, did the Raiders won today, and they're only 1-3. What are the Panthers? You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So you got to keep it realistic. Next week can definitely put us back on the board if we can pull that out, and then we're talking about a completely different season after that, right?
Yeah.
So we're just calling it how we see it. It is what it is. But real quick, who do you guys got for Sunday Night Football? Chiefs or Bucks? I'm gonna roll with the Chiefs.
I gotta go Chiefs as well.
Probably the Chiefs as well. Yeah.
Yep.
So the Bucks are gonna win.
Right. The universe is calling it Bucks win, right?
Yep.
And then a big game tomorrow night with the Rams and Niners, and I feel like the Niners are the better team right now, but they're 1-2, and the Rams are 2-1, and Seattle today looked like a juggernaut against the lowly Detroit Lions defense that never even showed up today. So a lot of drama all of a sudden with a couple 2-2 teams, and one of these other teams could be 2-2 as well too. So let's see if the Rams lose and the 49ers win, all teams will be 2-2 in the NFC West. There you go. Take that for what you will.
Well, here's hoping. I'll go with that. I'll take that outcome. Let me give a couple of shout outs real quick. First, thanks for the super chat to Kellogg's. Important win, but my goodness, can you really see Cliff Kingsbury and his preschool play calling are holding this team back? Defense won this game. We were critical of those plays earlier. Some of that play calling, listen, some of the plays were really nice. So like that, I mentioned that touchdown to Zach Ertz, super great play call and design. Like what? Ertz is your big receiver. You would expect the defense would be trying to bracket him on the goal line, and he was wide open. So but some of the other plays, the fourth down sweep play, not so much, right? So, but hopefully they can get it back on track. But of course, want to thank you for the super. And also, I want to mention I'm going to be joining Mitch Kofsky on Thursday to preview the Eagles game. He is an Eagles content creator. I will share a link to that on Twitter and on my community tab. So definitely come check that out. Thanks for dropping in here, Mitch. Can't wait for the Eagles to win. Hey, maybe they've been good this year, but we'll see you on Thursday. You can find my writing on AZ Sports Underground. You can find me on Twitter at JoeCamo13. The links below, obviously, the Cardinal Rule. Please like, subscribe. Thank you, Evan and Jackie, for being here, hanging out. This is a much better conversation to have.
Absolutely.
Right. So, here's hoping, this gives us a little bit of optimism moving forward. There's some things they need to clean up, but there's hope. And that's a nice place to be. So as we get out of here, I'm going to throw up my my shout outs to the channel members. Thank you all for supporting the channel. We will see you all next time. Peace.